I want to correct this large misconception about reading. Majority believe reading equates success or reading leads to success. It is flawed. Read the top 10 business books, top 10 management books, top 10 books in whatever field you're endeavoring, and you will be successful. Come to me after that, and if you're not a success, I will give you X amount. As a consequence, we have individuals dissipating energy under the instruction of these false gurus or individuals who have attained achievements unconsciously to compensate for their lack of precision, deliver mainstream advice that's already generally acceptable. Sorry to break it to you, but reading doesn't lead to success. Action leads to success. Reading only positions you to take better actions. Do you understand the parallel? Some time ago, at the infancy of my career, I read this book. It's called The Richest Man in Babylon. One of the things I learned is the systematic way, not just to save money, but to keep it. It helped solidify my philosophy about finances, although I knew, because my mind works in a very logical and simple way. I knew from the infancy of my career, you make money, you save, you invest, you reinvest. So that was the philosophy I had towards finances. This book only reinforced that philosophy by giving me a logical breakdown of what I already understood. So there are two different things. In fact, at the current level I am, I don't read books primarily for knowledge. Oh, I don't know this thing and I want to read and I'm trying to learn. No. When I read books, it's to broaden my horizon, to give me exposure to various aspects of life. There are certain questions that leads to answer that you don't have access to because you don't have the question. As Mike Murdoch puts it, a question is a seed to an answer. So there are answers you need. You are yet to identify the questions. You are not developed enough to ask those kind of questions. About to start my first business, I was fascinated with the idea. A person could build a company that outlives the visionary. A person could build a company that perpetuates. A very good example of this is Disney, founded in the year 1923. A century later, it's still in existence. Doesn't that blow your mind? Also, I came across a book that helped answer that question, that helped even present the question in a more refined way. It uses this analogy of a clock. Imagine a guy who could look at the sky and tell the time and the date with exact precision. The time is 4 p.m., 14th of April, 2025. That kind of person would be impressive, right? Of course he would. Conversely, another individual who builds a clock, as a consequence, every single person in the organization can tell the time. Now that's even more impressive. You juxtapose this analogy from a business standpoint that you could so develop a system. Anybody who looks at it can predict the next move or can provide applicable solutions. In fact, that system alone already dissolves bottleneck because the janitor, the network provider, the customer care, every single person can now tell the time based off of those systems has been devised. So when you read, I want you to cut this idea. It eventually leads to success. It leads to success because it positions you to take better action. So action is inevitably the starting point of any success. In fact, you reading that book as opposed to scrolling mindlessly on social media is action in and of itself. So action is the starting point of any success. Reading has its benefits, but your action would veto any knowledge you sustain. If you study the works of Napoleon Hill, his famous book Think and Grow Rich, one of the principles, or not just the principles, if you look at the way the book is structured, the first part of the book is understanding of what you want to become. You have principles like desire, imagination. The latter part is taking action, from organized planning to faith, persistence, the law of or the mystery of sexual transmutation. You see, all of those, if you look at it that way, it was deliberate. First, know what you want, then become persistent. So, action is an inevitable elixir to the concoction of success. This idea that you can read, sit, and manifest your way to success is a fallacy. The only thing reading helps you to do is position yourself to take better action. And again, hard work necessary doesn't lead to success. Feeling worthy is what leads to success. Just that you need to work hard in order to feel worthy for success. But if you allow rare specimen who can feel worthy after putting in a little bit of work, you would achieve success. Again, let me balance this up. I'm not encouraging laziness, I'm not encouraging nonchalancy, but you can work smart and even hard, because when you meet a smart person, the divergence becomes hard work. There are two kinds of people who want to pay bills and live a modest life, and other men who just want to watch the world burn. I want to watch the world burn, and I'll give any single ounce of my being to realize that dream. So we are two different people. I can work 14 to 15 hours daily without flinching. You can't, because what drives us is different. I hope I help put things into perspective. And you, my dear, whose aspiration is to read 9,000 books in a day, hoping it leads to success. No, that's a vanity metric. You want success, you take action based off the knowledge achieved. As always, my friend, it's a pleasure speaking to you. See you in the next one.